bringing safe. He prepared people if they want to be saved, that even give them a prepare themselves, get ready. Prepare themselves, giving Noah healing on. Built it, just made a boat. Everybody built it where X boat. Ship. How God, oh yeah, all that. Majority of the people that doesn't study how to do a phrase of it clean. How long were people living? fisherman time. But this big old, so in the sea, those big boats that built that, go ahead. I think I was not going to move that boat till doesn't.
that age. What were
ties into creation. It flooded. The world was flooded before and it was flooded again.
And I think when God was passing the wind, He also was absorbing the vapor of the word of Him back into the heavens.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we
So
know
we
that.
already know that
Yeah,
that happens
yeah,
now. So that's how it did, to
yeah.
me. And
And see, God, He did that because in Genesis 8:1 it says, and God remembered Noah and every living thing that He said to get in the ark. He remembered
And
them.
not
So
only-
he was fixing to save them again, to get
Right.
them. And you know what? What if it had rained more days? God knew. You know, we always say God knows what we can bear. He knew what they could bear. He knew that the 40 days and 40 nights was going to be enough too. You know,
Very
mentally,
symbolic.
yeah.
Well,
uh-huh.
it was well enough because the thing was 15 cubics above the highest mountain. So it means, you know, I don't know, I don't calculate that, I had to go back and get all that cubic, but I'm thinking we're looking at least 400 or 500 feet above, you know, just hypothetically thinking.
Well, they have some books and all that.
Well, yeah, they
I
can
haven't
calculate
read it.
all that,
Yes,
yeah, but
it's
I
very
just-
interesting.
you got to
That's what I'm
figure out what a
saying.
cubic is
It
and all
was a
that.
real thing that happened. And in this day's lesson, Tuesday, my memory, and I think I highlight stuff, but it was the raven first. It says it in the lesson.
Yes.
It says the raven first, and then the dove. God had a plan. He had a plan. He had the water, the winds recede. He had the birds that was going to go out. Noah, that wasn't his plan. God told Noah what to do about that, right? God let the birds go out and know where they were supposed to go to pick the.
Well, the raven went out because as the water was seceding for all certain things like fish that got caught up on the sides of the mountains, the raven had something to eat.
Right.
There was no vegetation, so the first dove came back because there was no rest for him. And then he waited 7 more days, and then he sent the other one out, and the other one brought the leaf back. That's showing that, you know, God is really receiving the waters.
And this is telling us that God, control, is telling him when he's supposed to. It's not like Noah, okay, everything stopped, we know it's not raining anymore, let's see if we can get the door open, right?
I don't think, well, it never states that he didn't ever go against God.
No,
He never
no,
did
I saw
anything
him bring it
without
out.
God
Yeah.
say so. He
Yeah.
always, I believe his curiosity was with when he sent the doves out.
Of course.
Because, you know, we all get curious, but he didn't, I don't think there were probably no murmuring and complaining. He was patiently waiting on the Lord.
Yes, yes. That's what God already had all these plans and steps, you know, and he remembered that he told Noah he will save him, and he had a plan that was going to save Noah. He didn't already, it doesn't say anywhere where he gave him the whole plan, because God doesn't give us our whole plan. He doesn't say, okay, Vicki, when you get this age, this is going to happen, this and this and this and this. If we had that plan, if we knew some of the stuff, I don't want you to go over here, Vicki. Make sure you go this way. He does that in a sense because we have a choice. But he didn't have, my thing is, he didn't give Noah a plan like he did when he built the ark of getting out of the ark. It was, Noah was probably praying and his family, and they was waiting on God to tell them what to do next. So let's go on over to Wednesday, to the covenant, part 1. Now is the moment when the promised covenant was to be fulfilled. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, your sons, your wife, and you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. In contrast to the divine threat to destroy, this covenant was the promise of life. So we're going to talk about Genesis 8:20. What did Noah do first when he went out of the ark, and why? What?
Established the altar. He established an altar for the Lord.
Has this ever happened before? Of them doing the altar and the beast and all that? You know, it says, and Noah built an altar unto the Lord and took every clean beast and every clean fowl and offered burnt offering on the altar. Had that happened before?
Yeah, that was before the flood that they did that.
Okay, all right.
I know that's what you was
Some
getting
people,
at. Yeah.
some people think that doing the altar.
And you know, and also when he did that, they did eat the meat at the time, because everything when they was doing that, everything wasn't wasted. They did eat meat. They did burn, and then
When, before the flood? Before the flood?
Yeah.
No, they never ate any flesh. It's going to be a verse that says
meat.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But I want to bring out what does it say right here in this verse? And took every clean beast and every clean fowl. That's a lot of animals. That's a lot of animals. I thought, you know, that was very interesting, but there is a verse that said no.
During Moses' time?
Oh, well, of course,
Before,
Moses.
yeah.
No, you're saying before the flood. You said before the flood they ate meat. They didn't eat any
Talking
flesh.
about eating flesh. No, not like that. But I'm saying they sacrificed and the Noah
right,
did. They
right.
did it. That's
Yeah,
what I was talking about.
yeah,
I wasn't talking about the people eating meat.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause you
Let's
sound
talk about
like
the
you're talking
sacrifices
about,
of the-
you sound like you're talking about before the flood,
No,
and they did not eat any flesh.
It's talking about with the same thing that Noah did. They
Okay,
did
let's
it
go to
then.
Genesis 9:2. What does this say in Genesis 9:2?
And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be on every beast of the earth, on every bird of the air, and on all that moves on the earth, and on all the fish of the seas. They are given into your hand.
Keep going.
I'll read it. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. I have given you all things, even as the green herbs, but you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is its blood.
So this is when he said, is this the verse? Yes.
Without blood.
But it says, what does that mean, the fear? The fear and dread of you will fall on the beast. What is that verse? Anybody ever? The fear of you and the dread of you shall be on every beast of the earth and every bird in the air. Was it okay. Yeah. Yes. Because when God allowed, because can you imagine? If I could just patch up everything and kill it because they weren't scared of you anymore.
Yeah, because before they were all.
They didn't eat them. I mean, the rabbits come in our yard, we always say, because we don't kill rabbits. The deer, they used to hunt in our area, remember? And we said they was coming around because they know we wasn't going to kill them. You know, so even animals know if you're going to be harmful to them, you know.
Five, probably about 2-year-old deer sitting right there by the railroad tracks, by the park in Redbird. I
Yeah.
thought that was fun. They just looked at me and just like, oh, how you doing? Keep on going. So we don't have to run. And, you know, but they was sitting there.
But in this verse, in this right here, can you eat anything and everything? Go ahead, you have something. Me, no. Yeah. Some people eat armadillos. I know Texas, they armadillos was there. Yeah, they did. They did. Right, right. That's just like I know when we went to Hawaii and the man told us they do the wild pigs and they have the roasted like you see on TV, that they still did that. They passed it on from generation to generation of how to do the wild pigs and stuff, you know. But did God allow all animals to be ate? And right here, you don't have to go to Leviticus, do you? Yes.
Verse 3 and 4.
Okay.
Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herbs have I given you all things. But in number 4 says, but flesh with life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. I'm confused there.
It's telling them not to eat the blood with the meat is what it's telling them. They
When you kill something, you're supposed
to
to take
separate the
all
blood.
the blood out, like the is it Jewish?
Yeah, there's
Kosher.
certain instructions to drain the
Blood, yeah.
from animals.
No, we did not keep up with doing that. You know, our parents didn't. I mean, they had something killed, blood stayed in it. You know, we eat clean animals, but we didn't go by that instruction. I don't know why.
When it broke down.
Well, you know, if you look at it now, you know, people thought that was good to eat it with the blood in it, but this doctor that got on there said all diseases that we suffer comes from animal blood.
Mm-hmm.
The blood that we eat from the animals, that's how we got our diseases. So God already knew if you eat the blood, these things were going to come up on you.
Life is in the blood.
Yeah, so that is the life. So he was giving them instructions. If you, when you eat it, you cannot eat it with the blood in it.
It's a trip, even a dead thing, their blood can still carry on whatever diseases or whatever is the matter with it. That's what when they take blood, they have to test it because whatever disease in their blood, apart from the body, can be carried on.
Even in where it says in Leviticus, it tells you if the animal dies, you can't eat it. You know how people want to kill it and eat it. Yeah, because it's been sitting there. You know, they tell you, the Bible tell you, don't eat it.
And
If
when
it dies of itself.
Right. But you know, when you go back to Genesis 8:20 and he built the ark, he took all the clean animals, right? All clean animals. And so that has went on. It didn't state it in that, what we just read in 9:2 and 4, because somebody would say, well, it looks like you can eat anything in this verse, doesn't it? When you read Genesis 9:2 through 4, it looks like every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. So that verse, almost somebody would says, well, that says you can eat anything you want, every living thing. But when you go back to Genesis 8:20, there was a 7 and the 2. And we're not going to have a lot of time to go through some of this.
If you would have ate some of that too, then they wouldn't have been able to
Reproduce their species.
Yes.
That's the reason.
And it's a reason for all
also,
the animals that God created. Some of the animals, the unclean animals, they're very important. They're just not for food.
Right.
Even though they can taste good. You can get, some people can fix that pork chop and some bacon is on everything now.
Yeah, I know it.
You know?
They even put it on
And
fish.
you can, people love, what is the catfish? And it's not that it doesn't taste good.
bottom feeder. It don't taste good. This is bottom feeder.
But it's not, God said it's not good for our consumption. And it's a reason for it, but we just don't have all the time to go through that if we're going to go on to the covenant. Go ahead, Dan. What's your question? Because I know this is a lot in a little time. You have a question? Okay.
Yeah, we answered one I had.
Okay. It says the covenant in Thursday. Read Genesis 8:21 and it goes over to 9:1. This is a very important verse. Genesis 8:21. Anybody have it?
And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. So God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth.
So God was pleased with the sacrifice.
Yes.
And it says he wasn't going to curse the land. And he still knew what? Although the imagination of man's heart is evil from youth. So it didn't say after the flood, he did it. I used to look at that like, what in the world happened after they done been in there, got out? What happened to these people? What happened to us all? No, because we always want to put it on them, but you would just think everything they went through, all the preachings and all the teaching, but people still had a choice. That's all what it's about.
But remember, when they came over there, God wiped that part of the world out of their minds and started anew.
That's right. Well, they didn't bring the. They say, oh, it's good in one of the spirit of prophecy, because they were some smart people.
Very smart.
Yes, and the things that they probably already had airplanes and different stuff. Because they were smart. Their minds was pure, right? They got their rest. They was eating good. They was what? They was 600 or 700 years old. Like,
well, you look at men grow as tall as almost 12 foot to 10. Probably an 8 foot probably was a short man. So
yeah.
But then after the flood, men's statues, women's statues, all of them went down.
In their minds.
It's not
because-
using
And
100%.
time. You know,
Yeah.
you didn't live as long, you
Yeah.
know. So you start living, instead of you living 8 to 9, now you live in what? From 4 to 500 years. So time is going down,
Diminishing more.
diminishing
Yeah.
more.
And God, it says in Thursday, it says, God's commitment to preserve life was an act of grace. It was not a result of human merit. So it's not like Noah got brownie points, right? Isn't that what that means? It's not human merits. It's not like, okay, you did all this. It was God's grace. It's God's grace every day. Whenever He's waking us up in the morning, all of us, if we praise Him or not praise Him, it's by God's grace. I used to wonder, why are they saying by God's grace, by God's grace? Start studying and understanding that you are not doing a lot of stuff for yourself, and God is just doing this because of His love for us. That is just, that is so awesome. Anybody have anything they want to bring out on Thursday? Because down in Thursday, what happened after the flood? What happened after the flood?
The promise to never destroy again.
What did he put up there?
The rainbow.
The rainbow. Who loves seeing the rainbow?
I think it was last year was the first time in Oklahoma I seen a complete circle rainbow.
Oh,
Go
wow.
from one end to the other.
No, circle.
Oh, never saw that.
It was a circle. I was kind of over a bridge, but it looked like it was just going, it was like over a bridge over some water.
Okay.
But it looked like, I was like,
That
because
reflection.
in the Bible it states that it was a circle. Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, because as a kid I learned the leprechauns, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's what I learned when I was younger.
Yeah.
But then I see when I was like, I always wonder where did it end, but I seen a circle last year, and it's the bowl. It was completely round.
And that was another promise. That was another promise. It was probably the reflection from, because haven't you ever seen rainbows when you're walking in the
In like the
water,
oily water or something, yeah.
or something, and you see
spread out
that.
your water fountain. If the sun hits it just perfect, you
So
will see
you
a
see that
rainbow
now
in the water.
then? if it was over the water, and then maybe that reflection on both, especially if it was like this, and then that reflection all the way, you know, because who loves seeing a rainbow? Don't you love seeing that? Yes. Oh my
It's
goodness.
nice when you see
Have you ever
of
seen
them.
two? Okay. Yeah.
It looks real pretty.
And that rainbow is a promise that God won't let what happen.
And he didn't just put it up there one time. This is every time we see it. That's the reflection of every time. We may not see it every time a storm come up,
Yeah.
but every time we do see it, that makes us remind us that God made his hold his promise.
What is the promise?
Not
Destroyed by
the world.
water.
You know, because we can get some heavy rains and heavy floods, and that's just a reminder. Because you know, it can get so bad, you're like, "Oh Lord, you coming?" But that's a reminder. It's not going to be destroyed.
Because who's ever been in any flood-like waters or seen it? Did you, Lydia, 19, did you ever get to see that? Or did you?
Where we are, it was Snake Creek okay. So Snake Creek did flood, and we saw it come back up over the road. And then eventually 129th flooded too.
Yes.
And so we were blocked in unless we wanted to go all the way down Champ Johnson
Yeah.
to like Haskell out here. And yeah, so I mean, we saw it, but it didn't affect like us personally. I mean, more than that.
You know what it did to us? You know what it did to us? We had to go, because it flooded the river, going from Haskell, we're going to Porter. We had to go all the way around, come to church in Muskogee, until that water went down. And we got to see on Highway 16, it was a house. The water came, and here was the top of the house, and here was the water. It was something to see. We took Dan and we went all around and looked at it. Because if you don't see it and it doesn't affect you, you see it on the news. You know, we see stuff on the news. But when it affects your route or affects your property, like Dan, when that flooded, how much did it flood? It didn't, well, and it rains, it floods your area sometimes. Yeah. He can't get out of his area. So, you know, the creeks and stuff like that, you know, but we're so blessed that God said this whole area is not our whole town. I mean, that is so sad to see, isn't it? You know.
Remember, we saw a 2-story house. Oh, you can see the roof of it.
Yes.
A 2-story house. That's a lot of water.
And so, yes, I know. It really was. God is so good. We see that rainbow like, well, God, you know, he promised us it's not going to go all the way up over the bridge, you know. We can't imagine that because the people could not imagine that it was going to flood because they never seen water. Water came from what way?
Up and down, up and out of the ground and on top. You know, and this is how much water that the hurricanes bring. So when those things come, it brings devastating rains and winds.
We gotta close, but remember the year it was that tsunami and those people area watching the animals, people who lived there watching the animals. They seen the animals moving to higher land. What did the people do?
They left too.
No,
these
the
were
people.
native.
Now
These
this
were
is the
native
native
peoples.
people who lived there. They
Yeah.
went to higher ground with the animals, and they were saved.
The ones who
Who was watching the animals. So sometimes it's good if you see the birds doing something or the animals kind of going crazy or something. They can tell you that storm's just going to come. They say that the cows can tell you if a storm is going to come, and they
That's a
will
fact.
go a certain direction and stuff, you know. So God is so good.
When I was a kid, Vicky, my dad used to tell us constantly, he reminded us of what we're talking about now, and he said, everything obeys God but man. He used to tell us that all the time. But when the tsunami came, now was that created by man? I heard it was done by man. I don't know when the tsunami came.
That
The
was
ocean.
that was an earthquake under the ocean that caused that.
Okay, I
Well, they
guess so.
think because of drilling and all the stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
it's because man
Fracking.
created the fraction in the earth. But God's still in control, and the animals knew.
And God has let the enemy have dominion. That's why we do have, because some people always blame God for tornadoes and bad things. God just allows it. We're going to close with this. If you all would go to the further thought, and it's that second, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, but because the sins that call for vengeance upon the antediluvian world exist today. The fear of God is banished from the hearts of men. That means the love of God is banished from the hearts of men. His law is treated with indifference and contempt. The intense worldliness of that generation is equaled by that of the generation now living. God did not condemn the antediluvians for eating and drinking. Their sin consisted in taking these gifts without gratitude to the giver and debasing themselves by indulging appetite without restraint. It was lawful for them to marry. Marriage was in God's order. It was one of the first institutes which he established. He gave special directions concerning this ordinance, clothing it with sanctity and beauty, but these directions were forgotten, and marriage was perverted and made to minister to passion. And now similar conditions of things exist now. I can keep reading the rest of that. Y'all read it when you go home.
You know, I like
But-
that question down there. Some people argue that Noah's flood was only a local event, but what is wrong with this idea? If this is true, why would every local flood and every rain make God a liar? Was it a worldwide flood? The rainbow would be in existence.
Because that rainbow is after the flood. Before the flood?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I know we gotta go. I like Noah. It's it's a really good thing if somebody doesn't know a lot about the Bible and you want to get them interested. Don't go with one of the verses that's so hard to understand. Go with one of these stories. If these stories like this that shows what God does and his grace and his love, good stories to begin with, you know. Let us have prayer close. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for letting us study your word. Thank you for letting us come into your home today. Uplift you, praise your name, and celebrate your love for all of us. Be with us as we get ready for the next order of service. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.